How bad is Apple, really? So recently I made a decision to purchase a uh, MacBook Pro computer, which a couple of my viewers left some comments that they were very disappointed in my decision. And I'm certainly not going to defend the decision. I don't really feel I need to. It works for me, and I enjoy Mac computers, and I enjoy the operating system. So I'm certainly not a fanboy, but I am an enthusiast of computers in general, and always have been my whole life. So for one thing, I will say though that with Mac computers, it's kind of a new thing for me. Before I met my wife, I had limited Apple use. As a matter of fact, the last Apple that I used was an Apple IIc, so I really didn't have a perspective of Apple systems. So she wanted a MacBook, and I surprised her and got her a MacBook Pro for her birthday years back. And that particular MacBook Pro 2011 was the one that I've been using probably 30 to 40% of the time, because I got her an upgraded system, the MacBook Air. My whole approach with Apple products is kind of the same way it is for me with other technology. For me, it was new and exciting, and I wanted to learn about it, and I wanted to use it. And then I decided, you know, I would really like to get a newer system that's lighter. I have the system that I like as far as Linux usage goes, and Windows, which is the Yoga 2 Pro, and my Yoga 2 11-inch, which is a dual boot with Linux and Windows on it. So I had explored Windows 10 extensively. If you'd talked to me 2 years ago, I had an entire year where, for the most part, I didn't use anything but Windows, because I had actually been behind on Windows, and I'd actually been behind on Windows understanding and Windows learning. So I spent a good year using Windows and learning pretty much everything I could about Windows 8, 8.1, and Windows 10, because as an IT professional, it's important for me to learn and understand everything I can about an operating system. So the whole Mac thing for me, one, I like the operating system just as much as I like Linux, and I still enjoy using Windows. I do have a real problem with the privacy, but you know, I do like the Windows 10 interface, and I think as far as tablets go, Microsoft really went out on a limb with the Metro interface in Windows 8 and 10, but it actually is elegant and very advanced, and I do like it in tablets. I find myself, when I use my Android tablet, trying to use the features and swipe functionality of Windows 10 tablets or Windows 8 tablets in Android, and it's frustrating, because to me the Windows 10 experience is more intuitive when you're in tablet mode on a tablet. So that's me. That's just me. So I got to thinking, how bad is Apple really? Many users have problems with Apple. And many of my viewers really were disappointed that I chose Apple, but I want to wait for the airplane to go by. Awesome. Maybe you can't hear it as much as me. Anyway, so I don't really read Reddit much, but I was on the Reddit Apple Haters, Why is Apple Incorporated Bad? So I'm going to go through this one post that was a year ago, and the author says, in no particular order. He says, number one, they overcharge for their hardware. With Apple, I'm going to go with true. However, design is a factor. I have a Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro right here, and if I were to buy this and I were to buy an equivalent MacBook Pro or whatever, is the hardware that I'm getting better or worse than the hardware I'm getting with you know, this Yoga 2 Pro? Well, design-wise, I can honestly say, and it's hard to argue, the quality of this system, this MacBook 2 Pro, is excellent. I really think this system is a great system. Very thin, easy to use, great screen, and one of the big ones for me on this particular system is the looks like my apple's upside down, is the trackpad. I really like the accuracy and ability to use the trackpad and the precision. I'm very, very picky about that. I love my Yoga 2 Pro. It's another good system, but the trackpad pretty much sucks. I'm disappointed. I mean, it's okay. Now, I am going to say in Windows 10 the trackpad is actually pretty good. So it's kind of a Linux thing, and I am the one who chose to use Linux, so I don't complain about that because there are these trade-offs, and I accept those trade-offs. So yeah, the hardware, okay, it is true that they overcharge to some extent, but how much more research do they put into the design and effectiveness and the precision of their hardware? That's something you have to consider. Another one here, they lock their hardware unnecessarily. Well, I'm not really sure what they mean about that. I'm going to go with saying something like that means that, you know, you can't add memory to it. You kind of bought what you bought. Well, I'm seeing that with other companies, HP, Lenovo, whatever, you know, and I'm in the Ultrabook environment mostly. And with these Lenovos, you get what you get. Now, in the Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro, I can update the SSD. In this MacBook Pro that I purchased, I can update the SSD, but the memory is what you get. That's that. So, if that's what this particular author was referring to, I find this criticism the case with pretty much every other company. So there are different models you can buy, though. You could buy, I was looking at the HP, for example, laptop where you could upgrade the memory, and that's what it was for. It was more of a gamer system, so you were able to upgrade the memory, add an SSD. I think you could add 2 SSDs, so definitely a different system and approach altogether. Here's another one. They make it difficult and impossible to repair and upgrade your hardware yourself. Yeah, I could see that, but again, with this shrinkage, and it's something in the industry that kind of annoys me. I'm not so concerned about how thin something is. Lightness is important, but thinness doesn't really affect me that much. The backpack's the same size as it's always been, you know, so having something more thin isn't, especially when I think of these two systems I'm using, I don't need them to be any thinner than they already are. They're good for me. So this kind of fueled insanity in the industry to get the thinnest device ever. So, you know, we're going to lose all the ports. We can't even fit a headphone jack in future systems. We're going to go with 1 or 2 USB ports, and you're going to have to buy all kinds of dongles and other equipment to be able to use your devices with the system that you're using. So I would say with Apple, although it's true it is the case with other systems and other companies. One of my viewers mentioned, you know, I should have bought an HP or something else. Well, how is it that HP is any better or worse as a hardware manufacturer and as a reputation as a company? Is HP benevolent and not interested in making profits? No, I don't think so. I think they're just the same as Apple. So this guy says their suppliers have horrendous worker human rights records. You know, we hear about Apple, and I probably could do some research and find out the same kind of thing with other companies. So, you know, this is something concerning. Yeah, human rights issues are big, but who's driving the reduction in price? We are buying the products. So we go into the store and We decide what we're willing to pay for something, right? So it's an economic principle. You go in there and what am I willing to pay to get certain functionality? We always want the bottom price. So if Apple and HP and Lenovo set up their operations in China and they have Chinese factories and the price drops by $99, so one day you go in and the Lenovo that you wanted was $12.99, and the next generation same Ultrabook comes out, it's just the next generation, and it's $11.99, and you say, wow, that's wonderful. Isn't this great in the modern age how as we produce more and more and we mass produce, the price keeps going down? That's not the only reason the price keeps going down. The price goes down, unfortunately, because of cheap labor. And we want to rail against it and say, don't buy anything from China. Well, you know, it's hard to find anything anymore that hasn't been manufactured in China that's technologically related. There still is some stuff out there, but you will pay a premium. And you can't say, okay, yeah, I don't mind paying that premium. Many of us will not pay the premium for a quality system. If you have a Lenovo Yoga 2 or whatever, an Apple MacBook Pro for $11.99, and then sitting right next to it is the Apple MacBook Pro developed and engineered and built in the United States, and instead of being $11.99 it's $15.99, 99% of us are going to go, you know, I can't afford that extra $600, I'm just not going to buy it. So I'll go ahead and buy this, or I'll go ahead and buy that. Some may say, well, you should have bought the HP because they're a benevolent company and they do good things. Well, they make hardware, and their whole goal is to make a profit, really. And the best way they can do that is by pleasing the customer. So most companies will bend the rules, and if they can, they will break them. I hate to say it, but that's the rule for a for-profit company. They avoid, and this is another comment by this person on Reddit, they avoid paying taxes in the US and overseas. Yes, that's true, and they have $1 billion tax bill in the EU right now. Apple does, and yeah, they are busted. How many of you buy GM cars? I live in Flint, right, in Michigan. And as I was growing up, there were about 10 or 15 plants all around me, within walking distance, basically. Now there are 2 plants remaining, and there are none, 0 plants in the city of Flint. Actually, there's 3 plants remaining. There's 1 in Grand Blanc, Michigan, and there's 2 in the township of Flint. But it's actually 1. It's just 2 plants in the same area. The reason those plants left was 2 reasons. Number 1, labor was cheaper in the South, which is what they started doing. They moved to the South. Then they realized, you know, we can go to Mexico and it's even cheaper. The NAFTA, North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, was signed, and GM said, hey, we need to wake up. We don't have any tariffs anymore. We're moving to Mexico. It's even cheaper. Let's go. And the other reason was because they didn't have to pay as much taxes. So wages decreased significantly for Mexican workers, and you know, the wage costs and the tax base. Many of these plants that were built here had 100% tax abatements on the property. That is, they did not pay any state tax, and they did not pay any municipal tax. 0, none. The funny thing is, for some reason, my local municipality will not give me a 0% or a 100% tax abatement on my property. I called and asked, and they hung up on me. I can't figure it out. But anyway, so that makes Apple evil because they avoid paying taxes. Well, I'm sorry to say, pretty much every business is doing that. And I'm not saying two wrongs make a right. Please don't think that. I'm definitely not saying that. My whole point, though, is, and I want to add too, I'm not defending Apple, but all the companies do that. So there's only one so far that I would say true. It's mostly Apple. They overcharge for their hardware. And here's another one. They don't release the best product available. Instead, they add a few new features where they could add more, but they want to be able to release another product the following year. Well, what line are we talking about? Many know there hasn't been, if you think about it, a new MacBook Pro, so to speak, since the Retina in what, 2012? Hardware-wise, they have increased in speed, so speed of processor, memory, and definitely the SSD performance has increased greatly. It's totally awesome. But as far as the chassis goes, it's basically exactly the same. So there isn't a whole lot of innovation there. They're just doing hardware refreshes, and it's us, the users, that are driving that. We, the consumers, want the latest CPUs. Just look online. I mean, everybody goes on about Skylake processors, and then it's Kaby Lake processors. They want the latest. They want the best. They're not interested in last year's hardware. Even if they can get it for a discount, they've got to have the latest and the greatest. The iPhone line, on the other hand, yeah, that's completely insane. I'm going to agree with the guy or girl, I'm not sure, on the iPhone. That's just insane. I'm on the Galaxy Note 4. But again, look at Samsung. You want to talk about phone releases, Samsung is the king. They have a new phone every other month. And, you know, it's all relative. So I've got the Galaxy Note 4, and now the Galaxy Note 7 is out. I still haven't bought the Galaxy Note 7. I don't need it. It doesn't give me any more utility than I currently have. And the speed, really not that important to me. What are we talking about? Maybe a 20% improvement? Do I need the latest and greatest operating system? Not really. No. So other companies, again, do that as well. And then, let's see what else. Okay, this one's really funny. I'll end on a funny note. They will remove your screws and replace them with Pentalobe security screws, so you can't do your own repairs. Okay, that's really crappy. It's not like you can do your own repairs anyway. Have you looked at the motherboards? Now, I've watched some YouTubers that do videos on repairs. The Rossman Group is one. He's totally awesome. I can't do those things. This is not realistic. Depending on who you are, if you pop the hood on your car and look at it, say, you know, I'm getting a funny knocking sound, or this or that's going wrong, good luck. It's not like a 70s car that was kind of academic, so to speak, basic. You know, you had an alternator, you had an engine, you had a couple other parts in there, you had a battery. Okay, so it was a little bit easier to deal with than it is with modern engines. Well, I think we know for a fact that most computers today, with the exception of maybe replacing the SSD, are throwaway items. They're not going to last as long, and that's us, the user, driving that. We can make these systems last much longer. I was using the 2011 MacBook Pro forever. So what's wrong with older systems? Well, we are the ones driving it. We're fueling the desire for the newer hardware. So if that's us doing it, and the company says, why are we making things upgradable and replaceable if user X in 2 years won't be interested in adding new memory when they want the latest Kaby Lake processor? They're not interested in just adding memory. Why are we putting in $17 to have the component in there and the space taken up so that somebody can add memory when they'll never do it anyway? It makes sense. I mean, that's fair. This is a corporate decision based on not just Apple, but any companies. So, absolutely. Anyway, that's my whole take on Apple. I don't think they're as bad as many think they are. But, you know, corporations are what they are. They are going to bend the rules, stretch the rules, do what they can to avoid taxes, maximize, you know, shareholder wealth, maximize corporate wealth, and sell as many systems as possible. And you can say, yes, Apple does all these things and they're very evil, but we do get a benefit from all that. Innovation. Apple makes a change on one of their systems, and these other companies feel like, hey, we've got to ramp up. We've got to join the fray. We've got to make our systems better. What is this metal chassis thing Apple came up with? Why are all the users excited about it? Well, can we do something like that? How much would it cost? There's that, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but it's a Chinese, basically a knockoff of a MacBook Pro, but it runs Windows. And would that company have bothered to make that system if there had not been an Apple? I don't think so. So we really do benefit as far as innovation goes. If you doubt me, think of the USSR and their cars. Okay, during the reign of the USSR. How many cool cars did they produce that you know of? Name one. You can't name any? How about Germany? How many cool cars did Germany produce that you can think of? Quite a few, can't you? What about the United States? How many cool cars can you think of that the United States have produced in that same time period that were innovative and really cool? Why is that? Because there was competition and the companies wanted to compete with each other to release the best product or the best value. So there's this healthy competition, and I think we need that. And corporations are often cutting edge and sometimes bleeding edge, and sometimes they bleed so hard they disappear. So it is dog eat dog out there for corporations. We can say right now, wow, Apple's doing great. They're just the best. As far as, you know, how much money they're bringing in and the type of hardware they produce. There's many out there who think the iPhone's the best phone in the universe. That might not be the case in 2 years. I remember the rise and fall of Palm. I don't know if you do. Nobody can beat Palm. Palm is the best. They have the best handheld assistant ever. Where are they now? They're gone. Completely gone. So, you know, consumer desires are fickle. They go on a cycle. Why aren't we buying tablets anymore? Think about that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Just my personal opinion on Apple and other companies. Hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. See you in the future.